You will regret getting a mortgage in 2024 if you make any of the 5 mistakes that we talk about in today's video. Buying a home can come with a lot of regrets, but all of them can be avoided by just taking a step back, thinking through the process, and not doing any of the things that we're going to talk about right now. And the very first one I want to talk about is waiting to submit the paperwork to your lender after you already go into contract on a home. While this might be common sense to some people might think that's how the process actually works. But I want to take a minute here and step back and talk about pre-approval versus pre-qual, because there is a huge difference between the two. A pre-qual is essentially calling someone on the phone, telling them how much income you make, telling them your credit score, along with discussing your debts, and then them coming back and saying, this is how much you can afford to purchase. Now keep in mind, nowhere in that process did I mention you were actually submitting paperwork to the lender. And that's where the pre-approval process comes in. The pre-approval is taking it a step further. So you're not only having that conversation with the mortgage professional, you're also providing documentation. You're providing your pay stubs. You're providing your W-2s. And you're also providing your tax returns if you're self-employed. On top of that, the lender is going to run your credit. They're going to look at your credit score. They're going to look at the debts that report on your credit report. And from there, they're going to be able to analyze the full picture and tell you not only if you're approved, but how much you can afford to purchase. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong. They just go into Google and type how to get a mortgage. They call some call center. They have a conversation with that person on the phone, and the person says, yeah, based on the information you gave me, you're good to go. But that can be a huge mistake and often will come with a lot of regret. The lender hasn't actually looked at that documentation. They haven't looked at how your overtime might be reporting. They haven't looked at your actual credit score and seen the debts that are reporting there. They don't know about that gap of employment because you never discussed it. They just found out about it when they called your employer. And the primary reason you want to avoid this is because your deal can actually blow up while you're in escrow because you didn't do the process properly. Now, in some cases, it can be worked out. Problems can be solved. But if I'm being honest, in my 20-year career, I've seen a lot of deals blow up where people are in contract to buy a home, and not only can they not get the deal worked out, they should have never been in the process to start with. They would have never been pre-approved had they actually provided the documentation to start with. So if you're someone considering buying a home, just take the extra steps. Yes, it might take a little bit more time. It might take an extra day. It might be a little bit of a headache to go and gather the paperwork that is required. But let me tell you, that headache is a lot less stressful than actually going under contract for a home, getting super excited, getting really emotional about the process, to find out that you actually aren't in a position to actually buy a home. Now, before we go into regret number 2, I want to take a minute here and ask a favor. If you find any value in my videos at all, do me a favor and smash that thumbs up. And if you want to stay updated on everything mortgage and real estate related, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Now, the second regret that I want you to avoid is taking everything your mortgage professional is saying at face value. You have a conversation with them and they say, hey, yeah, your rate is locked. Or in some cases, we're not charging you any points, we're not charging you any fees, and they're telling you about how much it's going to cost you to do that loan, but they never actually put it in writing. They never actually provide you any documentation. In fact, sometimes they come up with excuses that, hey, you're not in a position to lock your loan yet because we haven't gotten this paperwork or that paperwork. Or as one of my lender's recent conversations with a client went, they had applied to a lender for a conventional loan. Now the lender said, hey, your loan is approved, everything is good to go. And when the approval actually came back, it was an FHA loan, which was completely different than what they had originally applied for. So this whole time they're thinking we're approved on the type of loan that we wanted to buy a home with. And come to find out, they weren't approved on that type of loan at all. In fact, they were approved on a completely different type of loan. And unfortunately, these types of things happen all the time. And it really comes down to holding your lender accountable. Make sure you get the documentation in writing. Look at your loan estimate. Look at box A on that loan estimate. See what fees are actually being charged to you. In addition to confirming that your loan is locked, if you're telling your lender to lock the loan and they say it's locked, ask them for proof that that loan is actually locked. Because we often have clients reaching out to us saying, hey, we got to the end of the escrow and come to find out our loan was never locked. Our mortgage person never actually locked the loan. So instead of having regrets about the process, just make sure you get the conversation that you're having in writing from them so that you don't add additional stress to an already stressful process. Now, the third one I want to talk about is something I see a lot of people doing at the moment, and that is they're going into the mortgage process, they're going into buying a home, with the expectation that something is going to change in the next 6 months, the next month, the next year to make that home more affordable, that rates are going to come down, that their home is going to appreciate by so much that they're going to be able to refinance and get rid of the mortgage insurance so that all of a sudden that mortgage payment becomes less and the home becomes more affordable. And I think if you're doing that, you're setting yourself up for failure. You have to go into the process at the moment with the expectation that the payment isn't going to get any less expensive. In fact, you might be expecting that the payment could go up if your property taxes go up, if insurance goes up, that things might get more expensive down the road. And while I do believe interest rates are going to come down in the future, there's no guarantees on when that's going to happen. And on top of that, you have to be able to requalify for the loan in many cases. If you have an FHA or a VA loan, there's a streamlined process where you don't necessarily have to requalify. But if you have a conventional loan, you have to provide your income documentation again. You have to have equity in that property. On top of that, you have to have a net tangible benefit in order to refinance. So if you're going through the process right now, just make sure you're buying with the idea that that's going to be your payment for the future. And if all the stars align and rates come down and you're able to refinance, then what a wonderful surprise, right? But don't go into buying the house if you're already stressed about money. You have very little money in the bank. You're really pushing your budget and you're expecting something to change, because if you do that, there's a really high likelihood that you're going to regret getting that mortgage. Now, the fourth thing I want to talk about is probably the most important in my opinion, and that's waiting to shop interest rates, or in some cases, shopping interest rates on completely different time frames. Now, what am I talking about? Well, what I often see is somebody gets pre-approved to get a mortgage, and then they start going through the process of buying a home. They finally go under contract, and maybe a day goes by, and they say, well, who am I going to go with? That first lender was competitive on the rate, but I'm going to shop around. I'm going to see who has the best rate. And what they do is they spend a couple of days, 2-3 days in some cases, shopping for the best rate. And all the while, they're wasting time on the purchase contract. So if you're going to shop rates, if you will, make sure you're doing it before you actually get your contract signed. Or worst case, you're doing it as soon as you know you have an accepted offer. And try to do it around the same day, the same time, if you will. Don't call lender A on Monday and then lender B on Friday and try to compare the rates. Interest rates move every single day. So if you want a true comparison of lenders, make sure you're comparing them within the same time frame. And here's what I'll say. The lowest rate isn't always the best lender to go with. In many cases, there's a lot of lenders out there over-promising and under-delivering, especially when it comes to service. You don't want just an order taker on the phone. You want a mortgage professional. You want an advisor that can guide you through the process, that can hold your hand, especially if something goes wrong. And by waiting to shop rates till the very end, what typically happens is you end up painting yourself into a corner where you've already done part of the process. Maybe you've already ordered the appraisal, so you've spent money with a lender, and now you kind of feel committed to that lender because they've done some work, you've spent some money with them, and you don't want to change the process. So instead of spending money with lender A, or before you spend money with lender A, take the time and shop around. And when you're shopping lenders, again, pay attention to box A on the loan estimate. That's where you really can compare lenders. Look at the interest rate, look at the fees that are being charged, and ultimately look at the monthly payment, and then ultimately determine which lender is right for you. But on top of that, don't just go with the lowest rate. Go with somebody that's answering your questions. Go with somebody that's providing you education. Go with somebody that really has your best interest in mind, because there's a big difference in getting a mortgage and someone that's actually guiding you through the process, explaining things that you need to know so that you can make informed decisions. Now, if you're new to the process and you're just starting out, going through the pre-approval process, or maybe you're comparing lenders, you're already in escrow, looking to shop around a little bit, and you're wondering where to start, how do I find a reputable lender? Well, if you would like to work with my team here, I've actually created a referral link that's listed below where you can actually talk to us and we can actually guide you through the process. Now, oftentimes you might call us and we say, hey, you got a really good deal. You should actually move forward with that lender. But in some cases, we're actually looking at it saying, you're getting charged way too much. You're getting charged points and fees. In fact, we can do that same loan for not only a lower interest rate, but no cost at all. So if you'd like to connect with us and our team, do me a favor and check that referral link below. Now, the last regret I see people make is they get approved, they get under contract in a home, And then they decide to go shopping for furniture. They decide to start planning the house, if you will. They're looking at furniture, they're looking at all of these different things. Some cases, maybe they're looking at changing the flooring or whatever, and they go spend money on credit cards before their loan actually closes. Well, guess what? That can affect your debt to income ratio, which in turn can take that approved loan and make it not approved really, really fast. That lender is monitoring your credit during the entire process, all the way up till the last day. So the last thing you want to do is go out and spend a bunch of money and end up making yourself not eligible to purchase a home. We've had clients over the years go out and buy cars and do crazy things, go spend a lot of money because they thought they were already approved. In fact, we had a client quit their job after they got approved because they thought, hey, I'm approved now, I don't need this job anymore. Well, guess what? The lender follows up on that sort of thing all the way till the end of closing. So just make sure before you go out and spend any money, you're running it by your mortgage professional and letting them know what you're trying to do so that they can help you in determining whether or not that could end up affecting your loan. Now, there is one more mistake that I want to mention in today's video, and that's people going through the process blindly, not having any idea how the process works and just literally letting the realtor tell them everything, letting the mortgage professional tell them everything, letting the escrow and title company tell them everything, and they really have no idea about the process. They don't know how it works. They don't know what just happened at the end of the day. And while some of you may want it that way, I think it's a much better process when you go through and you actually understand what's happening. So if you're one of those people that wants to educate yourself, you can do it right here on my YouTube channel. I have a lot of videos walking you through that process. Or you can actually go to that link in the description of the video where I created a course that really takes you from point A to Z through the entire process in really short modules to help you understand really every piece of the puzzle so that when you go through, you know exactly why you're doing it, you know exactly how to do it, and more importantly, you know exactly what to expect when going through that process. So if you're somebody that really wants to educate yourself and be a pro when you're going through it, do me a favor and check that link in the description. Now, if you're just starting the process and you haven't even applied for a mortgage yet and you're wondering exactly what that process looks like, do me a favor and watch this video here.